Your 20s are not a vacation. They are not a time to figure things out slowly. They are not meant to be comfortable, easy, or soft. Your 20s are war. And the truth is, most people are losing that war without even realizing it. While you're scrolling, someone else is building. While you're hesitating, someone else is executing. While you're waiting for the perfect time, someone else is already 10 steps ahead. This is not to scare you. This is to wake you up. Because your 20s are the most important decade of your life. This is the decade where habits are formed. This is the decade where direction is decided. This is the decade where your future either gets built or delayed. And here's the problem. Nobody tells you how brutal this phase actually is. You're expected to make life-changing decisions with very little experience. You're expected to stay focused in a world designed to distract you. You're expected to build discipline in an environment that rewards comfort. That's why it's war. Every single day, you're fighting invisible enemies. Distraction, procrastination, fear, self-doubt, comparison. And the worst part? These enemies don't look dangerous. They feel comfortable. Scrolling feels harmless. Sleeping in feels relaxing. Delaying your goals feels safe. But slowly, silently, they are destroying your future. Because success doesn't collapse overnight. It erodes daily. One wasted day turns into a wasted week. One wasted week turns into a wasted year. And before you realize it, your 20s are gone and you're still at the starting line. That's the reality most people face. But it doesn't have to be yours. If your 20s are war, then you need to start acting like a soldier. A soldier doesn't wake up and ask, "Do I feel motivated today?" A soldier wakes up and executes, no matter what. Because discipline wins wars, not motivation. You won't always feel like working. You won't always feel confident. You won't always feel ready. But if you wait for those feelings, you will lose. Because the people who win in their 20s are not the most talented. They are the most consistent. They show up when it's hard. They show up when it's boring. They show up when nobody is watching. That's what separates winners from everyone else. And understand this clearly. Your competition is not sleeping. There is someone out there your age working harder than you, learning faster than you, sacrificing more than you. They are building a life while you're debating where to start. That should bother you, not in a negative way, but in a way that pushes you, because pressure creates growth. Comfort creates weakness. And right now, most people are choosing comfort. They want success without sacrifice. They want results without discipline. They want the reward without the war. But life doesn't work like that. Everything you want, success, money, freedom, respect, sits on the other side of discomfort. And your 20s are your opportunity to go through that discomfort. This is your time to take risks, to try, fail, learn, and try again, to build skills, to build discipline, to build a mindset that most people never develop. Because once your 30s and 40s hit, responsibilities grow, time becomes limited, and the cost of mistakes becomes higher. Your 20s? This is your training ground. But most people treat it like a vacation. They spend years chasing temporary pleasure, parties, endless entertainment, validation from people who won't matter in 5 years. And then one day, reality hits. They look around and realize they've built nothing. No skills, no discipline, no direction, just memories and regret. Don't let that be your story, because regret is far heavier than hard work. Working hard in your 20s is painful, but wasting your 20s is devastating. At least hard work gives you something back. Wasted time gives you nothing. So you need to make a decision. Are you going to treat your 20s like a vacation, or are you going to treat it like war? Because you cannot do both. If you choose comfort now, you will struggle later. If you choose struggle now, you will live comfortably later. That's the trade. That's the deal life offers everyone. And the earlier you understand this, the more powerful you become. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. What you need is commitment, a decision that no matter how hard it gets, you won't quit. Because the truth is, most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they quit too early. They try something for a few weeks, see no results, and stop. They expect success to be fast. But real success is slow. It's built in silence. It's built in days when you don't feel like it. It's built in moments where nobody is clapping for you. That's the war nobody talks about. The internal battle. The days where your mind tells you to stop. The days where doubt creeps in. The days where progress feels invisible. Those are the moments that define you. Because anyone can work when they feel motivated. But only a few can keep going when they feel nothing. And those few, they win. So, if you're in your 20s right now, understand this clearly. You are in the most important fight of your life, not against other people, but against yourself, your habits, your mindset, your discipline. Every decision you make is either building your future or destroying it. There is no neutral. Every hour matters. Every day counts. And the scary part is, time doesn't wait. Whether you're working hard or wasting it, your 20s are passing anyway. So the question is not, do you have time? The question is, what are you doing with the time you have? Because one day, this decade will be over, and you'll either look back with pride or regret. There is no in-between. So start now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now, because in war, hesitation is loss. And your 20s, they don't forgive hesitation. The harsh truth is this: nobody is coming to save you, not your friends, not your family, not your circumstances, not luck. In your 20s, you are on your own battlefield. And that's not a bad thing, it's power. Because the moment you realize that everything depends on you, you stop waiting, you stop blaming, you stop making excuses, you start taking control. Most people waste years blaming things they cannot control. I didn't have the right opportunities. I wasn't born into money. I don't have connections. But while they complain, someone else with fewer resources is figuring it out. Someone else is learning for free online. Someone else is working 2 jobs to fund their dream. Someone else is sacrificing comfort to build something real. That's the difference. Winners focus on what they can control. Losers focus on what they can't. And in your 20s, that mindset will either build you or break you, because this decade will test you in ways you don't expect. You will fail, not once, not twice, multiple times. You will try something, get your energy, your time, and it won't work. And in that moment, you'll have 2 choices: quit or adapt. Most people quit. They take failure personally. They see it as a sign to stop. But the people who win, they see failure as feedback. They adjust. They learn. They come back stronger. That's how growth works. No one becomes successful without getting hit first. No one builds confidence without facing doubt. No one creates something meaningful without struggling through confusion. So, if you're failing right now, you're not behind. You're in the process. But only if you keep going. Because failure only becomes permanent when you quit. Let that sink in. You are allowed to be confused. You are allowed to feel lost. You are allowed to struggle. But you're not allowed to stay stuck. That's the line. Too many people stay stuck because they're addicted to comfort. They stay in situations they hate because it feels safe. They avoid risk because it feels uncertain. They delay action because it feels easier. But comfort is a trap. It feels good in the moment, but it costs you your future. Growth, on the other hand, feels uncomfortable. It requires effort. It requires discipline. It requires stepping into the unknown. But that's where your life changes. Think about it. Everything that could transform your life is on the other side of something difficult. Starting that business? Hard. Learning that skill? Hard. Waking up early and staying consistent? Hard. But staying average? That's hard too. Struggling financially is hard. Feeling stuck is hard. Regretting wasted time is hard. So you have to choose your hard. And in your 20s, this choice matters more than ever. Because every year you delay, the gap grows. The gap between who you are and who you could have been. And that gap turns into regret. Not immediately, not in a dramatic way, but slowly. You start seeing people your age moving ahead, building careers, creating opportunities, living the life you once imagined. And deep down, you know you could have done it too. That feeling, that's what you want to avoid. not failure, not struggle. Regret, because regret doesn't just hurt, it stays. So instead of avoiding discomfort, start chasing growth. Instead of waiting for confidence, start taking action. Instead of overthinking everything, start executing. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. You don't figure out your life sitting still. You figure out by moving, failing, adjusting, and moving again. That's the cycle. That's the war. And here's something most people don't understand. Discipline is your greatest weapon. Not talent, not intelligence, not luck. Discipline, the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. That's what builds momentum. That's what separates the top 1% from everyone else. Because feelings are temporary. You won't always feel motivated. You won't always feel inspired. But if you rely on feelings, your progress will be inconsistent. And inconsistency kills success. Discipline removes that problem. It creates structure. It creates stability. It creates results. Small actions, repeated daily, become massive outcomes over time. That's how people transform their lives. Not through one big moment, but through consistent effort, day after day, week after week, year after year. And yes, it's boring sometimes. Yes, it feels repetitive. Yes, it feels like nothing is happening. But that's the illusion, because while it feels slow, it's working. Behind the scenes, you're building something powerful. Skills, habits, a mindset that can handle pressure. And one day it all compounds. One day, people look at you and say, you got lucky, but they didn't see the war. They didn't see the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices. They only see the result. But you will know the truth. You earned it. And it all started in your 20s, when you decided to stop playing it safe and start fighting for your future. There will come a moment in your 20s where everything feels uncertain. No clear direction. No guaranteed outcome. No validation. Just you and the weight of your decisions. And this is where most people break. Not because they're weak, but because they're not prepared for this phase. They expect clarity before action. They expect confidence before risk. They expect success before struggle. But life doesn't work like that. Clarity comes after action. Confidence comes after repetition. Success comes after failure. And if you don't understand this, you will stay stuck in a loop of hesitation, waiting, overthinking, doubting, while time keeps moving. Your 20s don't slow down just because you're confused. They keep going. And every day you spend overthinking instead of executing is a day you don't get back. This is why speed matters. Not rushing blindly, but moving with intention. Taking action even when things aren't perfect. Because perfection is just another form of procrastination. You tell yourself, I'll start when I'm ready. But ready is a myth. You become ready by starting. Think about it. Every skill you admire, every successful person you look up to, they all started without knowing everything. They learn along the way. They figured things out through experience, not theory. And that's your path too. Your job in your 20s is not to have all the answers. Your job is to build momentum, because momentum creates confidence. When you take action, you gain experience. When you gain experience, you reduce fear. When you reduce fear, you take bigger action. That's how you level up. But if you stay still, fear grows, doubt grows, anxiety grows, and suddenly, even small steps feel impossible. That's why action is everything, even imperfect action, even small progress. Because something is always better than nothing. And over time, those small steps turn into big results. But let's talk about something most people avoid: sacrifice. You cannot win this war without giving something up. Your time, your comfort, your distractions. Something has to go, because you cannot build an extraordinary life with average habits. If you're spending hours every day on things that don't move you forward, you're losing. Not immediately, not dramatically, but slowly. Every hour wasted is an opportunity missed, and those missed opportunities add up. That's how people wake up at 30, 35, 40, and feel behind, not because they lacked ability, but because they wasted time. So if you're serious about winning your 20s, You need to audit your life. Look at your daily routine. Where is your time going? Is it building your future or distracting you from it? Be honest, because change starts with awareness. And once you see the truth, you can't ignore it. You either adjust or accept the consequences. That's the reality. And here's another truth. You will outgrow people. Not everyone in your life is meant to come with you. Some people are comfortable staying where they are. They don't want to grow. They don't want to change. And when you start evolving, it makes them uncomfortable. So they might doubt you. They might question you. They might even try to pull you back. Not because they hate you, but because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. And that's hard for people to face. But you have to stay focused, because your future is more important than their opinions. You cannot let small minds control big goals. If you want a different life, you have to be willing to walk a different path, even if it gets lonely, because sometimes the path to success is not crowded. It's quiet. It's just you, your goals, and the work. And in those quiet moments, your discipline will be tested. No one is watching. No one is praising you. It's easy to stop. It's easy to slack off. But this is where your character is built. What you do when nobody is watching defines your future, not your intentions, not your words, your actions, consistent daily actions. That's what builds results. And understand this, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be relentless. You need to keep going even when progress feels slow. You need to keep showing up even when results are invisible, because growth is not always obvious. Sometimes it's happening beneath the surface, like roots growing before a tree becomes visible. If you quit too early, you'll never see the results of your effort. That's why patience is powerful. But patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means working consistently while trusting the process. And that's hard, because we live in a world that wants instant results. Quick success, fast money, overnight transformation. But real success? It takes time. It takes effort. It takes resilience. And your 20s are where you build that resilience. This is where you become someone who can handle pressure, someone who doesn't break under stress, someone who keeps moving forward no matter what, because life will get harder. Challenges will come. Unexpected problems will appear. And if you don't build strength now, those moments will crush you. But if you do the work in your 20s, if you embrace the struggle, if you develop discipline, if you build mental toughness, then nothing can shake you. You become dangerous, not others, but to your limitations. Because once you realize what you're capable of, everything changes. Fear loses its power. Doubt becomes background noise. And action becomes your default. That's the transformation. That's what this war is really about. Not just building success, but building yourself. At some point, it all comes down to one simple truth. No one is going to live your life for you. Not your parents. Not your friends. Not society. Just you. And one day, whether you like it or not, you're going to face the results of how you spent your 20s. No excuses. No blaming. No second chances for this decade. Just outcomes. That's why this phase matters so much. Because right now, you're writing a story that you'll have to read for the rest of your life. Every habit you build becomes part of that story. Every risk you avoid becomes part of that story. Every excuse you make becomes part of that story. So the real question is, what kind of story do you want to tell? Do you want to look back and say, I played it safe? Or do you want to say, I gave it everything I had? Because deep down, you already know what you should be doing. You know the habits you need to fix. You know the distractions you need to cut off. You know the goals you've been delaying. The problem isn't knowledge. The problem is action. And that's where everything changes. The moment you stop waiting and start doing, because action creates clarity. Action builds confidence. Action changes your life. Not overthinking. Not planning forever. Not waiting for the right time. Action, even if it's messy. Even if it's uncomfortable. Even if it feels small. Because small actions, repeated daily, create massive results. That's the formula. Simple, but not easy. And that's why most people never do it. They want a shortcut. They want something easier. But there is no shortcut. There is only work. Focus, consistent, intentional work. That's what separates people who talk from people who achieve. So if you're still waiting for a sign, this is it. Start now. Start where you are. Start with what you have. Because you don't need perfect conditions to begin. You just need a decision. A decision that you're done wasting time. A decision that you're done living average. A decision that you're ready to fight for your future. And once you make that decision, everything shifts. Your priorities change. Your habits change. Your standards change. You stop asking, is this easy? And you start asking, is this worth it? That's a different mindset. That's a dangerous mindset. Because now you're focused on long-term results, not short-term comfort. And that's how winners think. They sacrifice now so they can live freely later. They push through discomfort because they know it's temporary. They stay consistent because they understand that results take time. And eventually that consistency pays off, not in one big moment, but in a series of small wins that stack over time. One day, you wake up and realize you're not the same person anymore. You're stronger, more disciplined, more focused. The things that once felt hard now feel normal. That's growth. That's transformation. And it only happens when you commit to the process. So don't waste this decade chasing comfort. Don't spend these years avoiding challenges. Don't trade your future for temporary pleasure. Because your 20s are not a vacation. They are a test of your discipline, a test of your mindset, a test of how badly you want a better life. And the people who pass this test, they don't just succeed, they dominate. They build freedom. They create opportunities. They design a life most people only dream about. Not because they were lucky, but because they were willing to go to war when everyone else chose comfort. So remember this, your 20s are war, and every single day you have a choice. Fight for your future, or watch it slip away. The decision is yours.